Well, we're back again. Sorry for the toing and froing, because there's a lot going on here, I can tell you, with games and suddenly games finishing, and we also wanted to get to an interview as well, so we've had a bit of a shuffle here as well. So I'm kind of intrigued to know what happened with this very quick draw. And, well, we've had a comment online from someone saying that they hope the interview is going to be a little bit longer than the game. So let's go over and hear from Alexander Grishuk, and Fiona is there as well.
Today against your compatriot Lomonosov, a very young international master. So can you explain to us what happened today?
No, I was surprised. He just forced a draw. I mean, he's young, talented, upcoming player, and usually such players, they just take an opportunity to play wherever they can, whenever they can, and somehow he didn't. Yeah, I'm quite surprised. Okay, there's not much to add. I mean, when I played the Rookie 8 for the second time, okay, I had to decide if I'm going to allow this repetition, but I just was not really thinking he's going to take it, because there are a lot of players, myself included, who just play knight g5 once and then just continue. But somehow he played it for the second time and then claimed 3 times, so okay, I mean, there is not much regret for me, because I was actually thinking to take bye today, and but like this, I think is better than bye. I mean, rating, okay, doesn't really matter, but to have one more opportunity to take bye is nice, and also like sort of I burned black color, so it's okay.
Can I ask you about the reasons why you're thinking about taking a bye?
Yeah, I mean, I got visa just like 24 hours prior to round 1. So I was very tired. I just arrived here to Isle of Man 2 hours before round 1, and yesterday was not an easy game. Yeah, just very tired.
Another question. I think I heard it's the first time you've played in an open tournament in a very, very long time. Unless I got wrong information, when was the last time you played in an open tournament?
Yeah, maybe, but because those years from some point, you don't feel them. And in my sort of core, I mean, I grew up playing only opens. I actually never played, I think, a decent round robin until I was, I don't know, 17, 18. So for me, actually, still also, since then, I obviously played much more round robins than opens. Still, for me, it's unnatural when in the round 1 you can face Magnus, for example, or some another very top player. For me, it's still much more natural when you start, sort of accelerating. Actually, yesterday it was a nasty surprise for me. I thought in round 1 I'm going to be playing like 2100 player, then maybe around 223, and then only 24, but then immediately I had to play 2450, so it was quite unpleasant, but I still managed to win. Yeah.
I know it's very early days, only round 2, but what are your first impressions of the island and of the tournament?
Yeah, the island is very nice. Like lots of Guinness everywhere, which is very nice. The weather is surprisingly good. I was expecting much colder weather. I was a bit afraid that it's going to be like Vaikanzee weather here, but luckily it's not.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time and your answers. Go and enjoy your semi-rest day, and we'll be back in the studio with Dania and Anna.
Yes.
Well, there we go. I think we got our answer.
Yes, not easy when you receive your visa 24 hours before the event begins and you arrive just 2 hours prior to the round.
Absolutely. And, well, there is still a long way to go in the tournament, 7 rounds. And as Alexander said, he burned a black, as he put it. So he gets black one game with the black pieces, out of the way. He's the kind of player that can play very aggressively, kind of on tap, if he wants to. So, yeah, in a way, as he said, probably it's more surprising that his opponent didn't want to just try something. As he said, young international master, fantastic opportunity for him to play one of the strongest players in the world.
Especially if he knew that Alexander must be quite tired from all the journey that he had to take last minute.
Yeah.
So yes, in a way it's surprising, but also a good result for the young Russian.
Really? I mean, I'm disappointed that there simply hasn't been a game, basically.
Of course, we are disappointed as an audience. We shall see if it works out. There are 7 more rounds for the 2 players, and we will see. We will keep an eye on both Russians, and we shall know later if this was a good strategy or a bad one.
Games I would like to check out, we can see the top pairings there, but the games I would like to check out are the ones that Danny mentioned, Danny Wrench mentioned at the top of the programme. The 2 young Indian players, so Ramesh Babu Pragyanananda and Nihal Sarin. So if we look a little bit further down, we can see that Pragyanananda has black against Peter Leko. Now that's a very interesting one. We saw Peter grinding away yesterday successfully. And
against Tanya Sajdev, he's actually playing an Indian championship so far.
Many Indian players in the tournament. So now, Nihal is playing against Wang Hao, very strong player. So let's check out Nihal's game first.
And then we shall see the opening between Vishy Anand and Robert Hess, as I had an unfortunate bet on that game.
There's Nihal there, just leaning back, pretty steady. It's his turn to move. With the black pieces, we can see it's a gioco piano.
It's the exact same board, I believe, that we were focusing on yesterday when 12-year-old Ronak Sadhwani sat on the left side and Vishy Anand on the right side.
Wang Hao playing with a very different strategy to David Eggleston yesterday, who played with A4, included A4 here. But H3 from Wang Hao, and then bishop b3. So this has, I think, potentially more of the character of a Spanish, actually. It looks like a Spanish position. So I'm imagining that Wang Hao will probably play his rook to e1. Oops, that's black's move. But if I play the rook to e1, and perhaps knight f1, potentially the knight into c4 as well, maybe even knight e3 or bishop e3, that's a possibility. But very early days there. Anna, what do you think of a5, if I just go back a move?
It's not the most usual. We mainly see a6. You need a square for that bishop. The c5 bishop always needs this space on the a7 g1 diagonal, especially against moves like d4. So black is preparing for white's d4. Still not coming, the next moves, but this is a common strategy. a5 is slightly surprising.
Yeah, I have to say, it doesn't really impress me, a5. On
the other hand, I think Nihal must have had it prepared, since this is only move 8. He's thinking now, but you don't play a5 just simply making it up at the board.
I guess not. It just feels slightly odd to me, because it cedes some kind of control over b5. I mean, not a big deal at the moment, of course, but I don't know, it just doesn't give me a very good feeling. Anyway, very early days in this game. Let's have a look at Pragyanananda's game.
Indeed, the other Indian prodigy. The two came here last year fighting for their last Grandmaster norms, and this year they are both here as Grandmasters. But we have a score sheet to show you. Not yet. We will show it to you in another moment, because that is a curious detail from the European Club Cup that we will bring up later. about our daily topic.
Yeah, that's a little teaser for you. So this is the game between Peter Leko playing white, fantastically experienced player, of course, a former challenger for the world title when he played against Vladimir Kramnik in 2004.
Yes, and the Caracan defense, if I remember correctly, was an opening that took a very important role in that match.
It certainly did, with Kramnik winning the final game with e5, this exact opening. So Leko, normally I would anticipate knight c3 from him actually, but here he's keeping more tension in the position. And Pragyanananda is playing the traditional move, bishop f5. We saw c5 yesterday. Let's just, whoops, sorry about that. Let me just go here. We saw c5 yesterday in that absolutely crashing game between, Anna, help me out, refresh my memory.
Oh no, my memory is very bad for recalling which game it was. I know we saw it.
It was a crunching game, wasn't it? And of course I can't quite remember who won it.
We only have 165 players to keep an eye on, so it's an easy task, right?
We're chess players, we're meant to have very good memories. Anyway.
Not me.
We saw yesterday a lovely game with bishop g5 and bishop f6. It was a crunch,
Oh,
wasn't it?
that one. Bishop g5, bishop f6
Yeah.
was Sergei Karyakin's game? No?
No, he won with the
Oh, no.
f3 and queen e1
Vidit?
queen h4. No, Vidit.
I will stop guessing.
Okay, anyway, this is the other way to play it. But if we go back, yeah, bishop f5 is the whole move. Very interesting. Knight d2, this was exactly the way that Kramnik used to defeat Peter Leko in that final game.
And the current position is a few moves away from this moment. Danny, I don't want to lose you.
No, don't worry. Well, obviously the game has taken on the nature of French defence, but with this bishop outside the pawn chain.
Do you want to say that it's an improved version of the French?
I do want to say that. How do you feel? I mean, you're the French expert.
I knew that you would say this, and my heart is broken now.
Why?
No, it's true. It's true that the Caracan is sometimes like an improved version of the French defense, but not always. If it was the case, we French players would always go for the Caracan instead. But we will talk about the French defense very shortly in more detail.
But yeah, it is basically a French defence with this pawn structure here. But
It is.
But I think here, this is an important moment where black plays f6, because black is certainly not obliged to play with f6. It feels somehow natural to play on the queen side as well, with eventually at some point some kind of minority attack. I suppose there is a slight danger that bishop c5 will come at some moment. I mean, it's not possible here because of tricks on the c-file. But f6, there are pros and cons to playing with f6. Blows open the centre.
Like in the French defense, this is what usually black wants. But as you said, it also has its disadvantages. The e6 pawn has become a target. It's a backward weakness, and the e5 square is available now as an outpost for white's pieces.
But yeah, as we mentioned before, the bishop on f5 and coming into e4 is also pretty attractive, and black very, very active by placing the rook on the f-file. So yeah, active stuff from Pragyanananda. You know, this is a move played without fear, basically. I'm really intrigued by this because Peter is so knowledgeable and has such a fine feeling for positional chess, and I just wonder how he's going to do this. Maybe knight d4, just sitting a knight here and trying to get some kind of clamp on the dark squares. But yeah, very intriguing.
Yeah, those of you who are not familiar with the Indian prodigy, he is currently the third youngest grandmaster ever. He completed his third and final grandmaster norm at the age of 12 years, 10 months and 13 days. The player who took a leap and is now second is Yavohir Sindarov. Actually, he is the youngest currently. He completed his grandmaster norm, I think, a few days ago. So that is a new prodigy on the list of the youngest grandmasters in the world, and the leader is still Sergei Karyakin, who made his final grandmaster norm at the age of 12 years and 7 months.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, these statistics, I think, sometimes confuse the picture, because I can see that, well, in the top 10 or so, Bobby Fischer is no longer there. And for me, Fischer's extraordinary performance at such a young age actually somehow outshines all these. And the reason I say that is because there were fewer tournaments in those days.
True.
And I think Fischer's achievement was, well, let's just say, as good as any of these players.
Yes.
So anyway, that's another story. Listen, let's move on, because I would like to go to our friend Robert Hess playing
Indeed.
black.
And I need to tell you guys a story.
Okay, go on.
The story of how Anna loses all her bets.
Yeah.
This is the title of today's segment. Last night we had a very nice dinner, the chess.com team, and of course Robert came with us. He's a player here, but we all know him as a chess.com streamer, commentator. And the pairings were out, so Robert informs us that he's going to play against Vichy Anand. And he suggests to play the French defense as black against Vichy. Now, you all know that I love the French defense. But I told Robert, don't play the French. What do you think he did today?
Let's see the first two moves. It's a Welcome back. Sorry for that little technical hitch. Anna, you were telling us about this game we're about to look at between Viswanathan Anand and our friend Robert Hess. So we found out that they were paired against each other last night. And, okay, what were Robert's thoughts? Let's hear it again.
Yeah, the story goes the following way. We are having dinner together with the chess.com team. Robert came with us. Of course, he's our co-commentator, streamer here. He's participating in the tournament, and that's when he figured out the pairings. So he was sitting next to me, and he says, Anna, tomorrow against e4, I'm going to play the French defense. What do you think about it? And I said, don't play the French.
Okay, but why did you say don't play the French when this is your opening of choice?
I just thought it's not a good idea against Vishy Anand.
Because?
He's a great player. The French defense is not supposed to be the most stable opening, so to say, to experiment with.
Well, I'm going to just kind of qualify that a little bit. I mean, I think in some ways the French is very stable because it has a very strong structure associated with it. However, I think the problem is that Black gives away a lot of space, and I think against these really top players, they understand how to exploit that space advantage. And Vishy, being such an experienced, such a brilliant classical player, I mean, that was my feeling as well last night. And we both said to Robert, what are you doing? Don't play the French against Vishy.
Yes, so what happened today is, can you please show it again on the board?
Yeah, e4. And Robert played e6.
And this is how I lost the bet, because I told our good friend John Urschel that I'm sure that Robert will not play the French defense. He always mocks the French defense. And against Vishy, it's basically a very risky opening choice, we felt like. So there you go. I lost the dinner. Okay,
but here, I think Robert's next move, bishop b4, is especially risky. Here's my top tip of the day. I would play, in this position, instead of bishop b4 in the winner, I like to play the classical. And I think this is a more solid way of playing.
I play the classical too.
You play the classical too. There
I'm
you
very
are.
classical.
And the reason that I do this is because here, well, you can get a nice counter-attack with c5, but also Black's kingside isn't exposed, not yet. The bishop is still on f8. But if we come back to the winner, and here's the problem. As our good friend Bobby Fischer said, in my 16 memorable games, Fischer said, I may yet to be forced to admit that the winner is sound, but I doubt it. It's anti-positional and weakens the kingside. That's in my 60 memorable games. Anti-positional and weakens the kingside. Okay, so why did Fischer say it's anti-positional? Because once this dark squared bishop gets exchanged from the board, then White has the potential to attack on the dark squares, and the pawn on e5 gives White this beautiful space advantage, so that, well, queen g4 is already a possibility. But Robert has played not even the main line here with c5. He has played a very risky continuation, queen d7.
What on earth? This is the kind of way you play when you're facing a lower rated player. At least this is what I do in the French defense. I pick a sideline when I know that I need to win as Black.
Right.
But it's not the strategy for today. I don't agree with the strategy by Robert.
Well, it is very unusual. I mean, it used to be played quite a lot, but it was kind of discovered how to cope with this. So why is Black playing queen d7? Well, one of the reasons is that queen g4 can now be met by f5 because the queen now defends laterally along the 7th rank, so defends g7. So that's the first reason. And then Black prepares to play very positionally with b6 and exchanging off the light squared bishop. So it defers the struggle in a way in the centre, but bishop d2 is the approved move. So let's see how Vishy does this. Now, he's gone for f4. You don't have to play f4. The move that I quite like to play here is, well, you can even play something quite bonkers here with bishop b5 and put the bishop round here and then bring the knight back. Okay, it's kind of complicated, but you can also switch the knight back straight away, also possible, and then support the center and switch this one round here. But Vichy's gone f4 straight away. b6, trying to exchange off that right squared bishop. Knight b5, interesting.
And right after bishop a6, a4.
Yeah. So let's just go back a moment. So you might be thinking, well, why didn't he want to play a6 to just drive away the knight? But then, not so easy to play bishop a6.
Indeed, and once you push a5, the knight can jump back to b5 and will be supported by a4.
Well, he's allowed the knight into d6, but presumably he's going to exchange that off at some moment with either knight c8 or knight f5. Because if he leaves the beast in the middle, then there's going to be trouble. Now I think that's as far as we've got on the board. Any other
knight
moves?
c6.
Oh, we've got some more moves actually,
yes.
so just let me catch up.
c5, after c5, we have a few more moves.
Excuse me, just a second. Well, I just retrieve the latest moves. Sorry, I'm making a mess of this, of course.
You're fine then, don't worry.
Oh, I think we got there. We did.
That's Mr. Grishuk's game where he drew, and Robert is currently... Yeah, it is Vichy thinking right after knight bc6, the last move by Robert Hess.
So one slight disadvantage that Vichy has, of course, is that he's now unable to castle on the king side.
I feel like Robert is still in his preparation. He has played relatively quickly. Well, Vichy even more, if we look at the clock. Yeah, it's difficult to tell, actually. Sometimes when you prepare something, you still spend time just to make your opponent think that you haven't looked at this. I'm hoping that this is the case of Robert and he still knows what's going on.
Well, I don't think this is so bad for black. I know optically this looks really dangerous with the knight on d6, but at some moment I think black is going to be able to trade that knight off. And I think if white already had the king safely at the side of the board, then white could count on some kind of positional advantage here. But here I don't think it's so easy. Casting on the queen side certainly feels very iffy when there's a pawn on a4.
Definitely. That's not recommendable. If we can't castle queen side, it normally means that the king will either stay in the middle. I don't think it's going to stay there. The other way would be to castle artificially. You can play king f2, king g1.
But if we do this, let's go to the analysis board. So if we do that, then while the king is in transit, I think we might hit it with f6.
Yes, it could not be the right moment to do this. And if it's not the right moment now, when will it be the right moment? Maybe Robert is more than okay, and the French defense was a great decision for today.
Well, let's see. Vichy is knuckling down there, whereas Robert looks pretty relaxed.
It's just starting his walk and having a look at other positions. Shout out to everyone, by the way, watching us on Chess TV and on Twitch. We are over 7,500 people tuning in to today's round, second round of the Isle of Man International, organized by Chess.com. I would like to give a special shout out to Danny Rensch, who is in the chat, and he said, quoting him, "Robert played the French. Our relationship is over." By the way, we will have Danny later on joining us with special interviews with the players. So you are going to see the other Danny. I'm here with Team Double Dana, Danny King, my co-host, and Danny Rensch will join us with interviews.
Let's go to the games of the two younger Indian players. So Nihal Sarin, first of all, against Wang Hao. We looked at that a little bit earlier. So if we go from the beginning.
Sorry, just one last comment about the game of Robert by Max. Max has actually gifted us 100 bits. Thank you so much for the bit. And he's saying, for Hess, we're sacrificing himself to prove that the French is bad.
Okay, well, let's see about that. So the game Wang Hao against Nihal Sarin. So we looked at this a little bit earlier. Let's just catch up with the moves. So gioco piano, and starts to take on the character of a Spanish, of course. And this is interesting. He's exchanged off bishop for knight and played rook e1. So that is quite a positional way to play. So obviously he wants to drive forward with d4. But in giving up the two bishops, that of course is a concession as well. Anna, what do you think?
I'm still trying to understand this a5 structure, which clearly was the preparation of Nihal.
Well, here it doesn't look bad though, because...
No, with the b5 open, I was going to say that I like it now more than before.
Definitely.
Before I felt like the b5 square was a weak square. After the trade on c6, there's no problem anymore with the b5 square, and we have the semi-open b file. So I certainly prefer this position to the moment when we saw a5 first.
I mean, it's interesting that he's flicked in rook e1. If we just go back a move, he could have advanced with d4 straight away. And presumably that would have to be taken and the bishop comes back. So I'm just wondering why he played rook e1 first. So he might be still playing with the intention of d4 at some point, but maybe also he wants to come back to the standard maneuver with the knight and maybe attack even on the king side, because with... Oh, I've put too much paint on the board.
I like it. It was very artistic. And that is certainly the way to go. This knight maneuver is a typical plan in the Italian as well as in the Ruy Lopez.
And the reason I say that is that the pawn on h6 just gives... It's a slight weakness. If we could establish a knight on f5, and particularly with the queen way out across the other side of the board, I wonder if that's what he has in mind before pushing forward with d4, which with the knight on d2 somehow doesn't look completely convincing. So perhaps he's going to play the knight to f1 first and then see what's what. Okay, an interesting one, but I think seems to me that white has typical slight advantage, or let's just say white has more options anyway. Let's go to Pragyanananda's game.
Against Wang Hao, the other Indian prodigy, third youngest grandmaster in the history of chess.
Against Peter Lecco.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Wang Hao we have just looked at. I'm still sleeping. And it's already, what is it, 3:30? Good morning, Anna.
Is Peter still thinking in this position?
Apparently it looks like.
It looks like exactly the same position we left it.
So we shall come back to this game later. I feel like there are 165 players, so maybe we shouldn't spend too much time on the same games.
Gives us a chance to mention the time control again.
Indeed.
Which is...
It's very long.
40 moves in 100 minutes, that's the first time control, and then 50 minutes added for the next 20 moves, and 30 seconds each time a move is played, and then 15 minutes after move 60.
Yes, so we're here for a long day.
We've checked in, and we're here for the duration. Okay, where should we go to next? Let's have a look at the list.
I would like to go quickly to board 32, if we have access to board 32. I believe that's our last digital board. I hope I'm correct, because that's where Anish Giri is playing against yesterday's surprise winner, Glenn House, FIDE master from England, who beat a very strong Indian grandmaster yesterday. So we have seen a couple of upsets in a sense that they were draws against stronger players. We mentioned that 9 of the top 20 players did not manage to win their games yesterday, but they also did not lose. The player that lost was one of the Indian grandmasters, and he lost his game against Glenn House, who has now 1 point and is facing Anish Giri, the number 2 player of the tournament.
Okay,
do we have his game, or maybe I'm wrong that we don't?
I'm trying to retrieve it now, and
it should be the last one. It's board 32.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Whoops.
Oh.
We're not there yet. Hang on a second.
Sure. If we don't have it, we can check another game. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, there he is.
Here we go.
The last game, board 32, Anish Giri with the white pieces. I picked Anish as the winner of the tournament, so I'm hoping that he will start winning games. He tweeted yesterday that a solid start is important. He drew against Alina Kashlinskaya, the wife of Radek Wojtaszek. So yeah, there he goes with the 50%.
And actually, you know, people were making fun of Anish Giri online, saying, "Oh yeah, big surprise, Anish makes a draw, ha ha," because he has this, you know, reputation of drawing a lot of games. But actually, in open tournaments, I've seen him play very, very aggressively, and actually he has often a really good record in open tournaments.
That is true. We see Anish here wearing a sweater, and his opponent, not a young prodigy. I believe he's over 50 years old, so he's following in the footsteps of Jim Tarjan, who started last year with a very well. He beat Vladimir Kramnik in the second round last year.
Well, I was chatting with Glenn House at breakfast this morning, who said that basically his game yesterday ran very smoothly. He was amazed at how easily he won his game yesterday. A huge upset, because Glenn is only rated 2180, I believe. But he said his opening ran very well, and it was the kind of position where his opponent just couldn't get a look in, and he managed to close the game out. Anish is playing the Keres attack now. For all those people that are making fun of Anish and his drawish reputation, well, I think that debunks that one. Obviously, very, very aggressive.
Yeah. Let me just mention who is the young boy that we can see right now. He might be a future World Chess Champion. That's Vincent Kaymer from Germany, the winner of the Grand Cat Chess Classic Open, and the student of Peter Leko.
So this is a pretty standard variation of Keres, and black breaks out at a very early stage of the game, because if you don't, then pawn advancing to g5 can just be really strong. So let's see how things work out.
Those of you wondering on Twitch who was the Indian grandmaster we mentioned, Mr. Glenn House beat Sunil Dopade yesterday, whose rating is 2493, and as we mentioned, Glenn House currently rated at 2180, so there's a big gap between the two players in terms of rating.
So Anish has given up a pawn and played bishop c5, preventing black's king from castling. So, well, on the surface of it, it looks very promising for white. A pawn for this position looks like a bargain to me. Then again, the e-file can be closed with bishop e6, but then we have the good old f-pawn waiting in the wings to advance. So I hope Glenn knows what he's doing, because if he doesn't, I would put money on Anish winning this one very, very quickly. This is incredibly difficult to defend.
I would be very scared to play this position as black, and also seeing that he's thinking, so he has been using quite a lot of time. That makes us believe that it's not preparation anymore. He has played bishop e6, by the way, after bishop c5, and Anish pushed f4 immediately.
Ah, thank you. That's serious. That is really serious.
I don't think this is preparation anymore. It feels more like trouble.
It looks like big trouble to me, yeah. At the very least, I would feel very, very uncomfortable playing the black position. Personally, I don't like to cede the initiative to my opponent.
Yes.
At such an early stage, and
especially not if you're playing against one of the top players of the tournament.
I mean, it looks horrible. You know, f5 is obviously a threat, but how does one deal with that? I don't want to advance the f pawn. This looks potentially fatal to weaken the bishop. I mean, f6, I think would just lose. Well, very quickly. If we played f6, in fact, it just traps this bishop.
Oh no! Aren't you losing immediately? It looks like this is
looks terrible.
A position where you can resign.
It looks pretty bad, doesn't it? So d4 or something. Oh, it's.
Well, after yesterday's surprise win by Mr. House, today it seems that it could be a very quick defeat.
Well, we'll see. But yeah, a very, very difficult one. Okay, where should we go to next?
Before we go for the next game, I believe we are going on a short break and we will come back with Fiona. Fiona is going to announce today's topic and the way you guys at home can win a Diamond membership. So make sure to stay here. In 2 minutes, we have Fiona with us announcing the daily theme.
See you soon.
Welcome back to the broadcast. I'm being joined by a good friend of mine, Fiona Still-Antoni, who will introduce the daily topic. Every day we have a theme prepared, and today's topic is...
hello Anna, it is dress code. Dress code, a topic which has been very much in the news as recently as last week with the European Club Cup taking center stage in the chess world. And here we have a first tweet. It is a response by Ravi Diaz. I'll get to that in a second, but you see our nice graph there with the daily question, which is, should chess tournaments have a dress code? And the first answer there by Ravi Diaz is yes, and it has to be provided by the organizers of the tournament. So I guess he means the dress code, as the guidelines have to be provided by the organizers of the tournament. What's your opinion?
Or an entire wardrobe for the players. I would like that too.
That would be nice in a dream world. What's your opinion on the topic, Anna?
I think it's an interesting topic. I'm not sure how I feel about dress code. I think there should be some rules, and we should all respect the game in a way that we don't turn up with our beach clothes at the playing hall. At the same time, I think everyone should be very comfortable with what they are wearing. So I would have some regulation for what you need to wear in order to respect the game and the tournament, but I wouldn't be very strict about it in a sense that it should be something that's still comfortable for the players. What do you think about it, Fiona?
I think I sort of am with you on this. I think there should be some sort of middle ground where we don't turn up here, in shorts, flip-flops, whatever. I also think, though, that last year when they held the World Rapid and Blitz in Saudi Arabia, that it actually looked quite nice when everyone was suited up, and it gave an image which we had never really seen before at a chess event. So I think in chess it should depend on what the event is. I think an open tournament like the Isle of Man has to have a different set of rules than a closed round robin, for example.
Certainly.
In my opinion. So I think it varies. But I think we can move on with the tweets as different points were being made by our viewers out there. And once again, if you do want to get in touch, do use hashtag IOMChess. I will be picking up your answers and showing them, discussing some of them on air. We're still not sure about the timing, but probably next time around 5:30 p.m.
And there will be a winner, I believe.
There will be a winner every day. I will pick one of you guys to win a 1-month diamond membership on chess.com. So do get tweeting and get in touch with us. That's
it's a nice close-up.
That was a bit scary. So the next tweet is by Stephen Gradijan. He's saying, well, people should definitely be dressed, which is a very good point, I thought. Beyond that, it should simply be up to the organizers. But whatever the dress code in a particular tournament might happen to be, it should be enforced for everyone, including world champions.
Why do you think the including world champions is added to this sentence?
I like that this provides us with a very smooth transition. I don't know if we can go to Magnus after this, but let's just come back here. So there is the photo of Magnus at the very recently concluded European Club Cup, which took place in Greece. There was a bit of controversy there about Magnus playing in shorts in the early rounds of the tournament, those violating the ECU dress code rules. This photo was taken in one of the later rounds when Magnus' team and managers had come to an amicable agreement with the organizers about what he should be wearing. So this was the agreement that the shorts had to be below the knees, because I believe in earlier rounds he had been wearing sports shorts, which were quite short. The fact Magnus was basically just saying it was too warm in the playing hall to be playing in trousers, then I think that's the story at least. He was protesting the warm playing conditions. The organizers promised to make the playing hall cooler but failed to do so. So that's why in the end this agreement was reached.
And we also have, I believe, a score sheet, the score sheet of Magnus Carlsen. If we can show that as
Actually,
well.
I hadn't heard of this until last night. David Howell showed me this. David, who was on a team with Magnus, so he was well aware, of course, of what was going on. The score sheet, if you cannot read Magnus' handwriting, it says there the white player is absolutely no, and the black player is shorts allowed. So I hadn't seen this until last night, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. I like how the rest of the score sheet is properly filled out as well, the ELO, the federation, the result. But no, absolutely no shorts allowed. So Magnus taking a stand there, what do you make of it?
I love it. I love the humor, and this is his game against Donchenko, a strong player. The game ended in a draw, but as you mentioned, he was perhaps a little bit annoyed by the fact that he had to wear pants.
And I like the fact that Magnus he has a lot of weight, of course, and I think it's a good thing that he uses it to make certain points. Again, I mean, if the playing conditions are stuffy and warm, there has to be a solution. I understand that it's even though you have a dress code, if the playing conditions don't go hand in hand with that dress code, then there has to be another solution, I guess.
Oh my God, look at that tweet by our own Danny Ranch. What do you think about his way of dressing and adjusting to the dress codes?
I think I would be very off-put.
By an opponent wearing a sombrero?
Yes, and a poncho, very colorful. I mean, I think if I saw Danny in the streets, I'd be like, oh, great outfit. If it was him sitting opposite me at the board, I'd be like, well.
It could be a little distracting. So I'm not sure that Danny would be allowed at any official chess tournaments.
Also, the sunglasses, I think, might just be prohibited by many rules nowadays. But yeah, good outfit there by Mr. Wrench. The next tweet by Chess Guy, he says, I don't think there should be a dress code. People should wear anything that they want unless it's inappropriate. Like Hikaru Nakamura's Hawaiian shirts in the US Championships. So that's another. We also see a response, by the way, from Lee Bullock, who I believe will be coming here to the Isle of Man in the next coming days. He is a big fan, famously, of Hawaiian shirts, and he says Hawaiian shirts and shorts should be mandatory for all players or no invites.
I think Levin and Hikaru would be fine with that, with those conditions.
Absolutely. They are some of the more, can I say eccentrically dressed players out there. And then there's also a tweet which I selected. Both of them are about Levon Aronian, who you just singled out. First of all, Charlie the Chess Cat saying any dress code should include mandatory cat t-shirts like Aronian sometimes wears. I believe you have seen those t-shirts as well.
Lovely.
They are also a bit reminding of Danny's poncho outfit in the previous photo. A bit hypnotizing, a bit out there. And then a tweet by Konrad Panicki saying, Mr. Levon Aronian, as a matter of fact, should become a standard of dress code to which everyone should aspire, e.g. dress code rule 1. I wondered actually if that was a typo. Every GM Aronian. I have wondered if he meant to say everything, like everything. GM Aronian, no, he's just referring to
everything GM Aronian has ever worn is strongly recommended.
Yeah. Actually, it's not confusing anymore. I'm just noticing. So, Levon, I think one of the more interestingly dressed GMs out there, wearing some I like Levon's style a lot.
Me too. Yesterday he was sporting a pink-red shirt. This is calling my attention. I don't know what he's wearing today. I need to still see the camera view.
Yeah, I haven't seen either. And I believe finally maybe Mr. K.R. Alok, I think Fischer would have said what matters is the quality of the moves and not necessarily the opponent's dress, as long as it doesn't have a noisy zip or shiny buttons.
Interesting point.
It is an interesting point, and I think that brings us back again to what we were saying all this time. I think what really matters is to be comfortable without violating any. I think, sometimes I feel that if chess players had more common sense, there maybe wouldn't be a need for such drastic dress codes. But it's an interesting topic. I think a lot of things will change in the future going forward, because the last point I wanted to make is this year I had been told there would be a dress code at the Olympiad and that we would have to be wearing team uniform every day. So we actually did bring a lot of polos along too, but to me, I was very glad when that dress code wasn't enforced so quickly, so we just wore them to the first and maybe the last round. But I have been told that the next Olympiad, 2 years from now, it will be enforced that all teams have to wear uniforms, which I'm not sure how I feel. I feel in a way it would look very nice, and it probably would make chess more promotable.
In an Olympic way, as a team sport.
Absolutely. What do you think about?
Mixed feelings as you. I think it looks very nice that you're representing your nation, you're wearing your nation's uniform. At the same time, if you need to wear it for 2 weeks, that's a little tough.
Exactly. So again, a lot of opinions, a lot of stands you could take on this. Do continue letting us know your opinions. I will be back once again in today's show, probably an hour and a half from now. So do get in touch, #IOMChess. For now, I'll leave Danny take his place again and let you guys get back to the chess. And I'll see you guys later.
Thank you so much, Fiona, for the information, the tweets. And as Fiona already mentioned earlier, use the #IOMChess. In order to win a Diamond membership, Fiona will select one of you in about an hour and a half. So you still have some time to share your opinion with us on the daily topic, dress code. Thank you. We will be back with Danny King.
Imagine a place shrouded by mystery, a sea-bound kingdom with its own captivating story to tell. A rich history that echoes through the ages. From the cries of the raven came the raiding hordes of Vikings, followed by raiders of a new kind, each leaving a legacy forever woven in the fabric of our folklore, driven by the independent spirit of our islanders and a lore that still lies on a hillside. A melting pot of character and taste where you can enjoy royalty in sublime surroundings, where true heroes exist who ride and rise on mechanical beasts. Mystical creatures wander at will, and sea monsters bask in the shallows. A snow-capped mountain and magical vistas of the Seven Kingdoms. A land of giants, tall tales and no tales. Enchanted forests where fairies take flight, and a bridge that brings you luck. Landscapes carved from pure imagination and the majesty of Mother Nature herself. Culture forged from its own tongue and song. A world of tangled trees and twisted trails with endless walks that take you by the way of the gull. Standing at the edge of it all, a place that reminds you how life should be, where legends are Manx made. Isle of Man, the extraordinary story.
It's good to have you back, Danny. And I would like to ask you about your opinion on dress code.
Well, okay, it's complicated.
Oh, the relationship status, it's complicated with dress code.
It depends on the event, I think. But for example, as you mentioned in the Olympiad, I think it's actually really nice that teams wear the team sweatshirt, the team tracksuit top, or team blazer, or whatever it is. I think it's really nice. And as I saw the English team were doing this year, that they could dress how they wanted, but they had a smart blazer with the team emblem, and I think that's really great. I just make this whole topic makes me think of an occasion where I actually had to negotiate a dress code, not for myself, but on behalf of the player that I was seconding. So I was Nigel Short's second in an interzonal tournament. This was way back when there were interzonal tournaments a long time ago. But okay, very serious, high-level competition, and it was extremely hot, very, very hot. It was in Yugoslavia in the summer, and Nigel was very fond of wearing a pair of shorts that were, how can I put it, quite skimpy. they were very short shorts, and they were rather fetching because they had pink hearts on them. Oh, which
the Valentine's Day outfit.
Yeah, exactly.
For your wife,
which he wore for a few rounds, and he felt very comfortable in the very hot weather. But at a certain point, of course, this was a fixed pairing. So, in fact, one of your compatriots, Zoltan Ribley, put in an official protest. He objected to Mr. Short's shorts. And before the game, I was summoned by the chief arbiter. Would I kindly have a word with Nigel that perhaps he could wear something else for this game. So we negotiated, and in the end, Nigel wore something else, but basically this was not on. However, I think Zoltan did have a point, because those shorts, they did look like something out of a bedroom farce, basically. It looked like he was on the West End stage or something like that. So I think you have to draw a line somewhere. But yeah, I like a dress code. I think it's good,
But yesterday we had a dress code.
We
wore a uniform yesterday.
We had the team T-shirts, yeah, but pinstripe suits. Anyway, let's move on. Let's look at some chess. So, shall we go from the top? Because we haven't even checked in on Levon Aronian, first board.
Just a second, I wanted to mention, I see many of you on Twitch coming up with the hashtag #FreeKovalyov, and that's also a topic you can discuss using today's topic, and the hashtag IOMChess, if you remember the case of Mr. Kovalyov and why he had to leave the Knockout World Chess Championship.
Yeah, I thought that was a disgraceful episode, actually. Not on Kovalyov's part. I think that was very unfortunate. Anyway,
but the way he was treated. This is a topic you can discuss using the hashtag IOMChess as well, or here on Twitch.
So I'm looking at the game between Dennis Wagner from Germany and Levon Aronian, and this system that Levon is playing with black was, well, very popular with compatriot of Levon's, Tigran Petrosian. I don't like the way Levon has played this at all. He's lost so much time with this knight. Allowed white this absolutely beautiful pawn storm on the king side. White is so many tempi ahead. Now f6 has come. I think that's the only chance for black to fight. If black does not play this, then f5 comes and blows up the position completely. So let's go to the analysis board.
We mentioned that Dennis Wagner is a dangerous opponent. He is a talented German grandmaster, playing with the white pieces here against the number one of the tournament, Levon Aronian.
So that's the position they've reached. I'm still, if I were playing with black, I would still feel pretty nervous about that backward pawn on e6. That knight has switched back. I've just seen that Wagner has played the knight back to e2. I'm not quite sure why he needed to retreat it so quickly.
Yes, where is he going?
I mean, I suppose that knight was sort of, well, dangling in a way on g3. Yes, where is that knight going? It's slightly odd, isn't it? I would like to put it on f3, actually. So it could well be that his idea is simply to move the queen away, possibly g2, maybe e3.
Doesn't it take way too long to go for this maneuver?
Depends what black's doing in the meantime, and frankly I don't think much of Levon's position.
With the e6 backward one, certainly.
Well, what's black's plan? This is the problem.
So and we can see Levon Aronian's outfit for the day, as we discussed dress codes. Today it's simply a t-shirt with is that an end or a pound sign?
I think it's an ampersand.
Oh.
It looks like an ampersand to me. Yeah, an and sign, sort of. Anyway, I like Wagner's position, I got to say.
I like it too, and I thought that this was actually a tough pairing. I did not expect this to be an easy game for Levon Aronian, and if he's worse, he can get into real trouble.
I mean, is he going to have to break with c5 at some moment? Maybe this is his best chance to... Because if he sits there, I think this is really difficult, actually. I mean, as you mentioned, Anne, it does take some time to reroute the knight.
By the way, we can see the birthday boy in the background, and I want to point out his outfit. He's wearing a Chess.com t-shirt, a Chess.com polo. Birthday boy Maxim Vashelagraf turning 28 today.
Let's have a look at his board.
He's facing another Indian player, Abhimanyu Puranik, with the black pieces. What was the opening here? Najdorf, of course. What kind of a question was it from my side?
It's his birthday.
He's playing his favorite opening.
It's part of his identity.
Yes.
Now, we've got a bit of shuffling back and forth. And instead of knight g4, e5, which is a very sound move. Okay, well, I'm going to fast forward this one.
Fast forward, and 20 moves later.
I suspect the Indian fellow knows what he's doing here. But, okay, how do we assess this one? Where's that knight going to bounce to? Might be bouncing around here into d4, might be looking at a5. Feels as though that knight is a long way from anywhere sensible. So could be that my first thought was too many pieces exchanged, but that knight could be better placed than that knight.
Yes, in 2 moves, if you arrive on the c6 square, putting pressure on the a5 pawn, that will create the threat of capturing on d1 and taking the pawn. Well, maybe not immediately, because the a6 pawn is also a weakness. You give up the d5, so it's not as easy as that. But I agree with you that this knight maneuver is important. e7, c6, and from there, attacking the a5 pawn plus a jump to d4.
We're still looking at Dennis Wagner there, but
maybe we could see the opponent of Maxime Vachier-Lagrave on which board is it actually? I'm looking at the pairings, board number 2. So if we could have the camera from board 2, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave with the black pieces against Abhimanyu Puranik, our birthday boy sporting a chess.com polo. And his opponent is very elegant today. So we have the sporty MVL against a well-suited opponent.
Yeah, and his name is Abhimanyu Puranik from India, and he's a grandmaster.
He has just played knight to f3, attacking the e5 pawn.
I suppose this knight is going to hop around here, probably. I mean, I've been saying reasons why I thought that black's position was nice, because this knight can maneuver, but I suspect that with best play, white is also all right here. So let me see, am I going to come back to e1 and d3, or d2 and c4? Not sure, it all depends on the tempi, how much time we have.
f6, quickly played by Maxime, obviously. And now white shall decide between the 2 knight maneuvers that Danny has pointed out.
Okay, I mean, this is a very tight technical game. Let's move on and have a look at something else. So let's go to, well, you'd already looked at Wang Hao against Nihal Sarin. How about...
Can we just quickly see the Vichy game?
Vichy game, yeah.
Board 3, Robert Hess playing with the black pieces against Vichy Anand. Robert played the French defense, and that cost me a dinner. So I'm hoping that at least he will play a great game with the French defense, prove that it's one of the best openings in the world, and then it won't hurt so much that I lost the bet because of him.
Well, we left the game around about here, and our feeling was that actually Robert was doing quite okay. And I think that the way the game has gone has borne that out, because in this position, I don't see any reason why black is absolutely fine here. I think after either recapture, either pawn or queen, I think black is doing fine, because I like black's solid structure, and there's a chance to attack these queenside pawns. I think either recapture is good. So for example, queen takes, puts a little bit of pressure here, and there's the possibility to play the rook into c4. Then again, we could also recapture with the a pawn and potentially play for pawn to b4 later. I don't know, Anna, which one would you prefer?
I like both, and I just like the fact that this is an amazing French defense. So, Robert, well done choosing the French defense. I told you should go for it for today, right?
I have to say, I like queen takes. Just feels very natural to attack the b2 pawn and to follow up with rook c4. I know that white can block with rook d4, but, well, you know, a second rook could easily join on the c-file. I like this, and I'm not sure that white's king is particularly happy here at the moment. Black's king is far safer behind these pawns. So, yeah, I think Robert can be pretty happy with this. Let's move on. Let's go back to, we were just running down the game, so our friend Lizzie Petz.
On board 5 against Sergei Karyakin.
That's on the board. Let's see how we got there very quickly. So it was a Caro-Kann by Sergei.
Let me see some of the pairings of the day on the screen.
So far...
Another Caro-Kann defense.
Bishop d3, a little bit unusual. Normally better to gain space with the h-pawn.
This is a solid variation against the Caro-Kann. I think Liz's point is that white is slightly better with the more space, active pieces, and she just wants to tell the opponent, Sergei Karyakin, how are you going to win this? Although this a5, a4 is creating a more complex position. C6 pawn hanging, also now there are so many captures possible on the queen side. We should calculate.
Calculate. This is a struggle
at
this point in the afternoon.
Making us work. It's only the second hour of the game, and it's already critical. It feels like.
All right, let me play the dumb move, and let me just take this here. Now, is c5 already possible? Does that? I think that wins material, doesn't it?
Yeah, two knights are hanging at the same time. There's no good knight jump, unless knight c4.
Knight c4 is possible.
Takes on a6, takes on b2.
It looks very dodgy, doesn't it? This.
It looks strange, but may still work. Although the b2 knight is almost trapped.
Tell you what. Wait a second. Let's take.
On g7.
Take that one first.
Okay. And I can't take back because of queen c3 check, picking up the knight on b2.
Very nice.
So the rook has to move, rook b8, supporting the b3 pass pawn. Then you capture and you can take on b3.
Okay, so this is basically just better for white, isn't it?
It looks better for white. Yeah. And you need to play rook b8 as black to defend the knight on b2.
Queen c3 must be better. Okay, so that's interesting. So c4 is a very direct move by Lizzie Petz, threatening c5. Now, how's Serge going to deal with that one? c5?
c5 is certainly an option. Probably one of the main candidates for black.
But with this knight on e5, I feel that Lizzie should be fine here, actually. It's a fantastic piece.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think white should be slightly better. Simply by intuition, I would say, as an evaluation. You guys know that we don't use engines. We simply try to tell you our opinion about the positions.
So, for example, if I take, and I'm wondering, we don't need to take on a4 yet, but I could drop for the moment and open that up. Okay, it's all getting very, very messy. But I feel that, yeah, I agree.
It seems like white is in control, and it is black who has to play precisely not to get into trouble.
Oh,
We will come back to this game, I think,
let me
later.
just, just very fun continuation.
Sure. Oh, beautiful. B4 to
prob-
deflect the C5 pawn, and then you push C5.
Yeah, that's probably nonsense. Unfortunately, this is on prise. Never mind.
Almost. It almost works.
Almost. All right.
We'll come back to see later what Sergei Karyakin came up with. Another interesting game is on board 9, Ori Kobo against Vladislav Artemyev, one of the top Russian young players. 20-year-old Artemyev with the black pieces.
So from the top. Oh, now this is an exciting one. We've got the good old H-pawn winging its way down the board, and a kind of Grunfeld with this bishop on this very strange square on H5, blocking the H-pawn. Crazy position. At some moment, I wonder if white is going to regret advancing all these pawns. That's the only thing.
This is a mess. I'm trying to understand who is better. I would feel more comfortable as black. With the king on e1, I feel like this position is just opening up against the white king, the f-file opening up, and I don't see where the white king will go to hide from any potential checks.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like a kind of classic counter-attacking position, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. I want to do a quick tour.
On the top board, we haven't seen board 7 yet, which is the game of Arkady Nidus against Valentin Dragna from Austria. Just to mention, for those of you who were not here, board 4 finished very quickly. Board 4 was the game of Alexander Grishuk against his compatriot, international master Lomasov, ended in a draw in the opening. Grishuk explained in an interview that he received his visa 24 hours before the event began. He arrived last minute to Isle of Man and he's very tired.
So we're looking at this game, Dragna against Nidus. Now Nidus has played a Queen's Gambit declined, and we've reached a position where there's a dynamic balance between the knights and the bishops. Nidus offering a trade of queens, but now breaking out. And that is the position on the board. Why can I take on d4? I would, if possible, I'd like to exchange queens, or am I just I'm getting my queen trapped.
Oh, that would be a very funny way of trapping black's queen.
Maybe not yet.
Queen a4 is still a possibility, yes.
Sorry, but let's just go back. So why not queen d4? Let's
Queen d4. If I take twice, you are okay with that position, I guess. This is what you wanted.
Well, if I drop the bishop, well, I can even play bishop b5 or I'll play bishop b5. Why not? Let's hit a rook. Could play bishop b8. I would feel very comfortable with the bishops. And there's also a back rank that we can try to exploit as well.
So what is the problem with queen takes d4? Maybe there's nothing, simply black is thinking. Oh no, he has made a move, so the current position, let's just catch up with the... Oh no, wait a second, I'm confused because I see a3 on the board, the live board says a3 was the last move, and black is thinking, but we don't see him seated. So Arkady Nidus is somewhere else, he's not at the board, and his clock is running.
Ah, maybe... Let me see if I play the queen back to b1. Let me try that one. So
and after queen a4, you want to play b3 and a4 and win the d7 bishop, but the e2 rook is hanging after queen b5.
Exactly. So still can't do it. Do you know what? Just for a moment, it looks very suspicious. I just wonder if we're overlooking something here.
Maybe. We shall see if Nidus will make a quick move, if he has thought of this position, a3,
But
and where to place the queen.
the thing is, Dragna didn't need to play a3 in this position, so I suspect
That there should be something after queen takes d4. We soon will figure it out. Those of you asking for the game of Ginger GM Simon Williams, we will take a look at it, because today he is playing on a DGT board. He is on board 26, facing Daniel Friedman. Simply, there are so many games to look at that you should be patient.
Okay, let's take a look. So this is the game that's not Simon Williams on the screen.
Yeah, we are seeing Nidus making his move, so it wasn't queen takes d4. There's something wrong with queen takes d4. Nidus went for queen to b5.
So this is the game we have on the board. Simon Williams against Daniel Friedman, who represents Germany. Now this is tricky stuff with bishop b5, because Simon is delayed. Okay, he's played d4 now. We're back in a pretty standard position. IQP position, the bishop's dropped back, which makes room for the queen to attack.
How do you feel about isolated pawns in general? Do you like to play with or against?
I like playing with them.
With?
Because I like the space, I like the attacking chances that you're able to generate with them, but I also play against them. Basically, this is classical chess, and I like classical chess.
So you like it with both colors?
I do, actually, yeah.
I usually face it as in a sense that I'm playing against the isolated pawn, but I started picking it up from the attacking side as well, since I had some really difficult games trying to defend against the IQP. We see on the camera Ginger GM sporting a black t-shirt facing Daniel Friedman.
Very interesting the way Daniel has played this, actually. Incredibly direct, not bothering to develop the queen's bishop, but he's just nudged the queen to the side, clearly wanting to attack on the light squares. I really like this, and I've used similar strategy myself, but sometimes going back to d7 and then to h3. So if we just rewind a little bit, this was the point of playing the queen to d6, just to create a little weakness around white's kingside. And I suppose the obvious move is to play the bishop into h3, but actually what he's done is he wants to move his queen in there instead, which is really dangerous, possibly prefaced by knight e4. Of course, if the queen goes in straight away, then the bishop could hack the knight off and damage the pawn. So probably looking at knight e4 first. Oh no, we've got one more move on the board. So he could play. Can he play this d pawns on priest? Maybe we play rook d8 first.
Preparing for d4, which would be a very typical idea, playing with the isolated pawn.
I'm looking to go down there. That's my goal in this position. Yeah, I mean I would enjoy black's position here, I have to say. It's tricky.
Nidus is saying on Twitch, Ginger GM is commentating the game and explaining his thought process in his head. How do you feel about that when, like, some of us who are streamers, commentators, and when we are back at the board, do you think that it's difficult to switch between these two roles?
Yeah, it can be actually. Yeah. But just in general, I think it's not discussed very much, but I think there's actually more pressure on players now when they know that every single move they make is examined by people all over the world at an instant.
Yes.
And I think that has a definite effect on players. Oh, interesting. Daniel has played not rook d8, he's played bishop a5. Now that is a really unusual move.
I did not expect that coming.
I suppose he's anticipating that knight a4 would have come to attack the bishop, but still, it looks slightly odd to me. Interesting. Okay, well, listen, let's move on from that.
Yes, there's so many games to follow, but we will come back with Simon's game later on. I'd like to see some of the female players, since they did very well yesterday.
Okay.
The only thing is that those who made a surprise result, they are on half a point, so we can't see their games today. I'm afraid only Lizzie Pett is on the top 32 boards. I can't spot another female player.
Okay, I'd like to go to Adiban against Helgi Olufsen.
Okay, that's a great game to watch, yes.
Adiban Bhaskaran, very exciting player from India. He was on the Indian Olympiad team. Has been rated higher than 2668 actually, but he has a very aggressive style. And he's playing against the Icelandic player Helgi Olufsen. Now Helgi is really experienced. He's more my generation than Helgi. But yeah, very, very strong player as well. So let's see, gioco piano. Let's zip forward quickly. All these moves we've seen similar over the last day or so already. And breaking with d5, now that already kind of upsets the position because suddenly there's an imbalance that black has a space advantage with the pawn on e5, but it means there's more pressure on that centre pawn, and also this diagonal can be a little bit weakened as well. d4 exploits that straight away, so if pawn takes pawn, then we have this typical trick.
Yes, that would be a piece up. Don't do that. E takes d4 is not recommendable.
Queen d3, very interesting move. Now what is that about? Is he playing as Daniel Friedman did? This is the maneuver of the day.
The maneuver of the day played on two boards that we have just looked at. So instead of capturing the pawn on d4, white decides to simply prepare this queen-bishop battery on the b1 h7 diagonal, preparing for a mating attack, not caring about the pawn. He's sacrificing a pawn. And if black takes on c3, that also might help white's attack, because later the c1 bishop could appear on a3. I'm not even sure if he wants to take back. Perhaps he just wants to go for bishop c2, but there's knight b4, queen h7, king f8. Yeah, what is that position about? Danny, bear with us. I don't want to commentate alone. Do you think that simply his next move will be bishop c2? Or he will take back first on c3 so that he covers the b4 square, and he prepares for bishop a3. This could be just all right. I'm curious about this position. So it's a pawn sacrifice by Adiban, but it's very much according to his style. He likes going dynamic and aggressive. I think it's a promising attack.
I suppose the question is, where does this bishop go?
Yeah, how to defend the king side? What pieces could black bring to the defense of the g8 king?
Sorry.
Are you okay, Dan?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just a bit dusty.
He's missing the knight from f6. That's the main point of white's attack. Normally, if you have a knight on f6, there's nothing wrong with the h7 square ever.
So if we, for example, bishop e6, and we play bishop c2, threatening here, then g6, and then we can take here. So black's kingside has been damaged. But how serious is that? I'm not sure if the bishop comes here or something. The bishop on a7 looks very odd indeed. Tricky. Yeah, black's pieces on the queen side are very bunched, but... Okay, that's the position on the board after queen d3. Helgi is a bit of a time pressure addict. I don't know if
Is he?
Yeah, I don't know if we can see the clock times.
I'm not sure we can see it right now, so we will just assume that both players have still plenty of time. This is the second hour of play. We started at 2:30 local time, and it's currently 4:30. Fiona is going to join us in about an hour to announce the winner, so you still have some time to send us your tweets using the hashtag IOMChess if you want to win a 1-month diamond membership. The daily topic, our theme of the day, is dress code. So tell us about your opinion on dress code and use the hashtag IOMChess to win a 1-month diamond membership.
Okay, I mean, this is it's a very interesting position. Absolutely typical Adiban playing so aggressively. I just wonder whether he might decide not to take. Okay.
Yeah, we actually have an update on the time situation. It's 1 hour for Adiban. No, the other way around. It's actually Mr. Olufsen who has an hour. So he has been playing pretty quickly, and Adiban has used most of his time. He has half an hour left. This is currently move 9. No, wait a second.
16, yeah.
Move 16. So this could be a time trouble game.
Queen f7 played by Helgi Olufsen, so that means that the h-pawn is protected, so that if bishop c2, then he can play g6. I guess that's his intention. But then, I don't know, it feels very slow, queen f8. Just wonder if I can play bishop f4 and just get
simply
some
attacking the c7 pawn, pointing out that black has more weaknesses to worry about, both on the king side and on the queen side.
Interesting stuff.
We shall come back to this game, but there's so many games to follow, so I think we shall have a look at some of our first picks of the day, as we suggested. That there are two prodigies facing two elite players, and I would like to know how are they doing. It's Nihal Sarin and Pragi. I'm going to call him Pragi because his surname is very long to pronounce.
Okay, so that's the position in the game between Wang Hao and Nihal Sarin, and we left it exactly here, and the knight has switched around to g3, so Wang Hao is delaying d4. He doesn't have to play it. And I think this is correct to bring the queen back, because otherwise I think Wang Hao would have just played the knight into h4 and queen f3 and then knight into f5, and I think with this slight weakness here with pawn on h6, then that's could be serious. But here, I imagine after knight h4, we can do the typical... Oh, we can't do the typical trick. So what happens on this? We have rook takes.
Rook takes e4, defends the h4 knight. So what Danny was saying is that oftentimes with this structure in the Ruy Lopez or Giocopiano, the move knight h4 sometimes does not work if the d8 queen can suddenly attack this knight with a discovered attack, a sacrifice on e4.
So I wonder if he can play knight h4 anyway. Put the knight on f5, play this very natural move, queen f3.
That's a typical maneuver, and if it works, it usually is the best idea.
Wang Hao's an interesting guy. He's, one of the top Chinese players, but I don't know, over the past couple of years, he hasn't quite fulfilled his promise. I spoke to him about a year ago, and he's a very unusual character. Speaks pretty reasonable English, and one of his big interests is Japanese manga.
Really?
And I think he was actually studying it and writing some kind of dissertation on manga.
All right, so he's studying at the universities,
Something
and
like
he's
that.
not
Maybe
a
I've
chess
got that wrong.
professional.
I'm not exactly sure of his status.
That is interesting to know.
But anyway, it's a chap with a lot of different interests. But he's thinking in this position after Queen D8. So that one's brewing nicely. Let's have a look at Pragyananda's game, the other Indian prodigy. So he's playing against Peter Lecco, and we left the position around about here. And Peter had a pretty big think at this moment.
And the move he came up with was...
Well, he just moved his rook into the middle, so lots of...
a natural developing move.
And that's the position on the board. So if okay, let's make the obvious move. So if
Indeed.
I play here...
This is such a typical structure from the French defense that black has to care about the e6 backward pawn. That's a weakness. But it's not that easy to attack as long as the f4 pawn is also in the air, so you can't just play rook f e1. Well, depending on the position, of course. Sometimes knight takes e6 is a fork, so it's all concrete.
Yeah, so do we have to exchange here first, or queen b6? One of these moves, I'm not quite sure. Feels to me like a typical Lecco position. He's going to be grinding away for another 3 hours at least in this position, I think.
Like he did yesterday against Tanya Sachdev.
With success.
With success.
Very strategic. I think he'll be happy with what he's got on the board. I can imagine that he'll be playing moves like g3 and then shifting his rooks over to the e-file. I think he's got control here. I think he'll be pretty happy with this one, actually. But still, anyway, long way to go on that. Should we go back to Vichy?
Yes, let's see how Robert Hess is doing against the former world champion.
And I think he's doing well. Let's go back. We left the game around here where Robert had the dilemma of how to recapture on b5. He did go for queen b5. That was
your move.
Well, like this. What a beautiful active rook. And Vichy having to beg for exchanges.
It looks like a very pleasant position for black, where it is black who can play for a win. Wow.
Definitely.
From the French defense.
Roberts
just said that.
Yeah, I think Robert's happy. Now, is that Hikaru having a look at the board?
Yes, indeed. Hikaru Nakamura checking on the position of Vichy against Robert Hess. Maybe considering to play the French defense tomorrow.
I think he could be. Hikaru's pouting. He's doing a classic Hikaru pout. He often likes to do that. Dissing his opponents. You can do it, Robert.
You can do it. I would be very proud of Robert if he manages to either make a draw or even a win. That would be amazing if he can beat the former world champion. Of course, we love Vichy, but Robert is from our family, and he played the French defense today, so I don't mind anymore that I have lost the bet. I'm rooting for Robert to prove that the French defense is a great opening.
Anna, a3 just played by Robert, so he's breaking up those pawns. I don't think Vichy can allow this pawn to stand. Could advance all the way, so let's say trades. And now Robert can gun for this isolated pawn. Yep, that's on the board. Isolated pawn here, so a couple of weaknesses. Potentially f4,
this
c3.
Is a dream position, isn't it? It simply targets in the white's camp.
He can target the king as well. The rook comes cross, hit the first rank. It's a nice position, and classic French position where there are simply no weaknesses in the black camp, because that strong spine, that strong pawn chain, I can't get the words out.
You can do it then.
Means, yeah, no weaknesses there.
I love it. The French defense is a great opening, and I told Robert yesterday to play it. Of course I did. I almost did it. Anyway, this is an impressive game. Board 3, let's remind everyone, this is board 3 here at the Isle of Man International, and our Robert Hess, our commentator Robert Hess, playing a very strong, a very impressive game against Vichy Anand. Vichy not having his best tournament so far. Yesterday he was in a lost position against 12-year-old Ronak Sadhwani, and today he is defending against Robert Hess.
Well, we're talking up Black's position, but okay, let's put the other side. So, for example, if I play this move, Rook B3, threatening Rook B1. Well, first
hinting at Rook B1.
Hinting at Rook B1. Then we'll just pop the king to this safe square. And now here is Vichy's chance. He's going to counterattack with Queen H4. So it means that Black always has to be just a little bit careful about this queen coming in. And I think this basically gives White enough to hold the position.
Yes.
I think that's the basic problem.
I wouldn't expect this position to be lost for White, so I agree with you. Because of Queen H4, Queen D8, there always seems to be at least a perpetual check or idea of giving checks and attacking the F7 pawn as White. But that is still a great result for Robert with the black pieces against Vichy.
Yeah, I could anticipate a draw here. I mean, I don't think White has serious winning chances at all.
I'm expecting a draw as well. And we will soon have a video of Danny Wrench discussing the French defense. So we'll have a special segment with Danny talking about his favorite opening.
Are we going to have a chance to look at a game first, or are we going to go straight to the vid?
It's coming later. Danny will join us later with his special segment on the French defense.
Let's go to Vidit Gujarati, who played a beautiful game, Queen Sack, yesterday. I'm just wondering how he's getting on today, and it's another French. This time it's the so-called Fort Knox variation.
I love that there's so many French defenses and Caro-Kann defenses today. The French and the Caro-Kann are so similar in terms of structure. And it's the birthday of our Frenchman, MVL. Is there any connection?
No. But also, for me, this Fort Knox variation, I don't consider this to be a proper French variation.
I agree with you on this.
Where's your structure gone? It's gone.
I know. I used to play this, but then I gave up on it. I thought it was pretty passive to play as Black.
It is. Black gives away space. This is the problem. And I like this move, not because the knight is particularly well placed on g3, but it prevents exchanges. Any exchanges relieve the pressure on Black's position. When you don't have much space, then you want to exchange pieces. So it's the classic move. And c4 takes away the d5 square.
We see Vidit with the white pieces, sporting an elegant shirt, as well as his opponent. So this board, in terms of dress code, our today's topic, both players could simply participate at any FIDE event wearing their today's outfit.
And yeah, it's an all-Indian battle. Debashis playing Black. And I really like the way that Vidit is using his space advantage to put the knight on e5, as Lizzie Petz did. But here this is even better because White's rook's really active. Sorry about that. Let me just get the position back. Rook a7, Queen a8. Well, this is all very trendy, but if you don't get in c5, then those pieces look pretty strange in the corner.
Definitely. You either end up opening the position, b5, that is an attempt to open up the position.
Let me just get the latest moves.
b5 has just been played, I thought.
Yeah, just 1 second. Nope.
I think we are all right. b5.
I think it went bishop c2.
Oh, all right. So one more move and then c5. Yeah, my bad.
Well, this is really throwing the cat amongst the pigeons now. Thing is, if I were Black, I would be very nervous about the queen in the corner. A long way from the king. With all these pieces lined up, and the rook as well, ready to swing across, of course. Somehow those forces massing in the middle of the board that can zip to the king side very quickly would fill me with terror. So how can we try and arrange this? If we... not so simple. There is pressure on g2.
It's double-edged. Certainly c5 is a great move in order to create counterplay. Otherwise, the b7 bishop and the a8 queen would have had nothing to do. Now after c5, the long diagonal opens up. As Danny pointed out, the g2 pawn is a target, so the e4 knight can't just jump away.
Okay, here's my thought. What about knight g5? So I'm looking at f7.
I've just said that the knight can't jump away, and you're pointing out that it can.
Well...
Thank you, Danny.
I'm not sure if it's any good.
Let's analyze it.
But
let's see.
I'd like to see it because it seems to me this is the most critical. Because I'm not exchanging pieces. I'm using...
Sure,
my
you're
active-
attacking the f7 pawn. So in case of bishop takes g2, you are saying that you simply want to capture on f7, or you have something even more dangerous prepared?
I was wondering if I could play this one first, actually. And then I will look at, well, indeed, maybe knight f7, but also knight h7.
Ooh.
And then follow up with exchanging
Queen
everything and queen
h5.
h5. And okay, just for fun, let me show you this variation. Just for fun. Here I go. I'm not saying this is forced. It's not forced. But it's fun.
And there you go. Vidit has just played knight g5. Danny, you are in a great shape.
Boom!
Boom!
It's our
Moment.
first boom of the day.
Yes.
But that, folks, is absolutely not forced. But knight g5 feels like a terrifying move to me. Because, as I said, these pieces way out across the other side of the board and white massing for an attack. So I think Vidit will be very happy with this one.
I would be so scared here as black. If you can't take on g2, then it's all bad. You can't defend the f7 pawn, can you? The rook is coming to g3 or h3. You have problems on the h7 square. This could already be a decisive advantage.
Now, we did record an interview with Vishwanath and Anand yesterday, which unfortunately we didn't have time to see yesterday, but be very interesting to hear his thoughts after this extraordinary game he had against the Indian prodigy, Raunak Sadwani. Raunak Sadwani.
Yeah, just a reminder for those of you who are not here, 12-year-old Raunak Sadwani almost beat Vishwanand, his idol, the two coming from India. It was a +3 advantage, which in terms of chess engines means a completely winning position. And we shall now listen to Vishwanand and his thoughts on the game.
And we're now joined by former world champion Vishy Anand from India. Vishy, a difficult game today. You're playing against your 12-year-old compatriot Sadwani. A long game. Can you maybe pinpoint a few critical moments for us?
Well, when I saw the pairing this morning, my first reaction was it was just very unpleasant. Because first of all, he's ridiculously underrated. I mean, he's not 24-38, whatever he is. And I couldn't see some easy, but more or less the rating situation, I was forced to at least play something. So I decided to go for the system, and then I don't know, I just started doing some strange stuff at the board. And I think his position is just very pleasant out of the opening. I didn't like it, so I went for the suicidal queen g4, but I simply missed that rook a7 is so strong. I assumed that after other moves, I'm somehow crawling out with some queen d5, king d7, rook b7, you know, something. But rook a7 was really strong because I just have no moves. And, well, I guess it's no secret that bishop d6 wins on the spot. So when but I already didn't see a move besides knight c8, so I just gambled, and so very, very lucky. I mean, probably I should have just played a normal opening, because like I said, he's much stronger than his rating, but okay, I'm relieved to have won.
A win is a win. Your opponent, you said you saw the pairings this morning. Were you familiar with him? And also, how do you prepare for games like this?
Well, a funny story. So, a while back, I mean, they often ask me in India who are the talented youngsters who are coming up and this and that. And in one interview, I mean, normally I go through the list of Nihal Sarin, Pragnananda, Arvind, and some others. But this time I thought to mention Sadhwani. So it was just like a week or two ago. And at the board I thought this is going to come back and haunt me. So.
And finally, a light question to end of the interview. How do you feel about being back in the Isle of Man, your second consecutive year playing here?
I like it very much. I even like the weather, which nobody probably believes. But I even like the weather. It's so hot in Chennai, so it's nice weather to play. No, I like it here. I'm very happy here.
Great. Well, we're happy to have you back. I also realized I didn't congratulate you on your win at the start of the interview, but congratulations. Thank you for your time and best of luck with the rest of the game.
Sure, thanks.
Always great to hear from Vishy. He's such a nice guy. It's interesting that he mentions the weather there because, I mean, I agree with him. Well, for a start, I really like being by the sea, and it's, of course, we're in the middle of the Irish Sea. It's really windy and blowy, but actually it's not cold here.
It isn't cold.
I don't know, at the moment, roughly sort of 15 degrees. I mean, it's classic autumn weather, actually, but, you know, it doesn't feel chilly here at all, not yet anyway.
Yeah, we are lucky with the weather, and right from where we are sitting, actually, we can see the sea.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful view here from the Villa Marina, and the players also have this panorama if they go to the balcony.
Absolutely. But yeah, always interesting to hear from Vishy, and
what a tough game he had.
really, really tough game, as he said, ridiculously underrated Ranak Sadhwani. We ought to check up on how he's doing. He did lose that game against Vishy, but he is a real talent. And there's our man Vishy, who's obviously struggling a bit in this game. I can see we've actually got to a rook and pawn endgame, which now that's interesting. I mean, I was sort of saying quite blithely that Vishy should hold this game, but actually it's. In the rook and pawn endgame, that could present a few problems still. Let's have a little look at that and see where we've got to. Just bear with me while I just get the position on the board.
Robert has achieving this rook endgame from a French defense. A reminder to everyone, I lost the bet because of Robert.
Still not... Sorry, let me just get the... We're not quite there yet, unfortunately. I'm just going to get the update on the moves. Yeah, we've found it. So that's the position on the board, finally. Sorry about that. Let's just see how we got there. We left the position here with Vishy had just played rook f3 to support the pawn. And Robert played queen a5, threatening rook a1. Vishy advanced the queen e3, and Robert exchanged queens. Now I think that's really interesting because it means that he doesn't have to worry about any kind of perpetual check on the king's side after the queen exchange. And obviously there's only one weakness, one isolated pawn on c3, so that can be very easily defended. But White's problem is generally this structure. So at some moment, Black would very much like to break with not, well, possibly h5, but h6 and g5 to undermine the support for the pawn on e5. I mean, Anna, I'm sure as a French player you've conducted this kind of attack against White's pawn chain on many occasions.
Certainly. If you manage to weaken the e5 pawn, then Black has serious winning chances. Now, I don't think it's so easy to carry it out, and I would expect still a draw as a result, but there's no problem for Black in this position. I
suppose the great thing about Black's position is you can play on without any risk at all. So, okay, let me random move for White. Let me play king h2, let's say. So if Black plays this directly with we can get this in, that'd be very good. And if h4... Now, one thing that black can do is advance and play for g5 anyway.
Since he can pick up the g5 pawn later with king g6.
Exactly. So Vichy has to work out how he's going to deal with this move.
I love how every time we come back to Robert's game, Danny Ranch appears in the chat, and he has just said, "Did I say I love the French defense?"
Well, it's funny because we were talking about this, yeah, as you mentioned, Anna, last night, and Danny was going, "Oh, I love French. You give away all this space."
He's a French hater. He talks about how much he hates the French defense in every single stream of his.
And I was putting the counter argument that actually you have this beautiful pawn chain, f7, e6, and d5, that means it's really hard for white to attack anything. And it's this spine of your position that you can play around, and with that solid spine, then you can attack white's position from a real position of strength. But Danny, I'm afraid, Danny Wrench dismissed my ideas, but let's see.
It's without the c8 bishop, so I'm very happy. Each and every time you get rid of the bad bishop in the French defense, you have a promising future.
Let's move on from this game. Let's go back to Levon Aronian on board 1. If I can...
Yes, and just to mention to everyone asking about Danny in the Twitch chat, Danny Ranch is here with us, and he's going to join us soon with a special segment talking about his favorite, opening the French defense.
So we left the position around here. Here. So this is the game between Dennis Wagner, and we see them on the screen there. Dennis Wagner, you can see on the left, playing with the white pieces from Germany, and Levon Aronian, playing with black. Very laid-back player, but I don't think it's a very pleasant position for black here, because white has this lovely space advantage. But Levon hitting back with c5, I think he has to create counterplay.
It certainly is the right strategy. We were mentioning that his weakness that in the structure, this e6 backward pawn, could give him a really unpleasant position if he doesn't find active counterplay.
Well, he's getting there with knight b6. Have we underestimated Levon? Probably. No, he must have exchanged first. Surely he's exchanged first on... He must have exchanged first here, otherwise c5 would be on prise, I guess. Let me just promote that. So that knight could well hop into c4 at some point. Yeah, probably we were underestimating the chances.
It is still a complex position. I don't think that white should be worried, but it's not as simple as it seemed. We just thought that white has a very comfortable position. Now it looks double-edged.
Dennis Wagner, interesting guy, strong grandmaster. I mean, he's pretty young.
Yes.
But he made a decision that he wanted to actually pursue some kind of serious career. I think he's a mathematician.
Is he?
He is studying.
Just like MBL, I think he also studied mathematics, if I'm correct.
I think he's a mathematician. Anyway, I seem to remember, he had a decision quite early on. Should I go to university or should I become a professional? And he thought, solid. He wanted to go to university and study something sensible. I'm pretty sure he's a mathematician, but
all right.
we can ask him later.
It's saying on Twitch that Wagner is a composer. Yes, great point. We will come back with the rest of the games, but we have a special segment prepared for you. It's Danny Ranch talking about the one and only French defense.
Welcome, everyone. Come on in and take a seat on my couch here at the chess.com Isle of Man International. Now, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but what you're looking at here is a beautiful position for black from the French. That's right. Grandmaster Robert Hess, good friend of mine, prepared the French against former world champion Vichy Anand, and he is currently playing it beautifully over the board. So what is it about this opening and this particular structure that's been reached that has gone well for black? Well, if you take a look at the analysis board right here, you're going to see that what I'm highlighting is that normally black might have this type of structure, but you might see a bad bishop on the board, a bishop that's going to be permanently hemmed in by the pawns. Or you might have this type of pawn structure for black that creates easy play toward the queen side, but when white has a big space advantage, that often leads to attacks on the king side, particularly the dark squares and particularly g7. But with all the minor pieces haven't been traded here by Robert, he doesn't really have to worry about that. So the kind of positional deficiencies black would normally have in the French, a bad bishop, potentially dangerous things to deal with on the king side, are completely gone. And so if you're talking about what the French does well and how to prepare a very, very easy path to equalizing against a strong player like Vichy, then this is a French that I think even International Master Anna Rudolph, our host, and of course I have to owe it and say when I'm wrong, that here the French has gone very well. This is the kind of position black would want to get. In the game, Vichy played king f2, but there's really not much more coming here than more simplification from Robert. We're expecting him to play b5 at some point, and the chances of either side really having any very good winning chances in the endgame are very small. So again, hats off to Robert, hats off to Anna for what we're seeing here is a very, very well-prepared and lovely French position for black. And hats off to all the viewers who are going to enjoy saying that Danny was wrong about the French here and Robert was right to prepare it against the former world champ.
I love it. Danny Ranch acknowledging the French defense and how great an opening it is.
Well, I think we're going to make him eat his words later, basically. we want an update on that one. He was
certainly
finally a little bit respectful about this fine opening. Let's move on and have a look at another game. I think we should take a look at the birthday boy. Let's go to Maxime Vacher-Lagrave.
Yeah, from the French defense, we are going to the top player of France, birthday boy Maxime Vacher-Lagrave, playing against Abhimanyu Puranik.
Now, we left the game around here, and we thought that Maxime was maybe a little bit better, but should be okay for white. It's certainly going to be very hard to win for black when white is very solidly placed here. But let's see. Maxime is technically a very, very good player. So another rook and pawn in game. Well, how things have worked out seems to me that black is still the player for choice here, because he can put the king on b5 to hit the pawn, but also there's the chance to play pawn to c4.
Yes. I see we have Grandmaster Eric Hansen, the chess bra himself, in the chat, and he's suggesting the exact same moves, king b5 and c4, so certainly a great rook endgame for black.
Yeah, it looks promising. I think Maxime might have worked his magic here in this endgame. Not an easy one for white to defend, because you have to think, well, where's the counterplay coming? And I don't see it at the moment. This looks terribly strong to me with these possibilities, as pointed out. Okay, let's move on.
I think people want to see Widith's game, since it was about to be an amazing attacking position after knight g5.
Okay, let me just get the update, because that was the position we left it off to knight g5. So let me just get the updated moves, and it's gone. After knight g5, pawn takes pawn on c4, and then rook g3. So white's piece is massing superbly, and this still looks absolutely terrifying for black. I would hate to have this position. I mean, what on earth are the queen and rook doing in that corner? And Vidit, well, like his game yesterday, you know, he played a superb attacking game yesterday with his queen sacrifice.
But if he continues like this, we will need to pick him as game of the day every single day with his beautiful attacks.
Well, this one looks like massacre of the day to me, actually.
Massacre of the day!
Totally. I mean, f7 and h7 are basically caving in.
Cactu on Twitch is saying that the black queen is in Siberia.
It is in Siberia. That's one of my favourite phrases. Yeah, the queen is in Siberia. It's cold, and it's not very comfy. So I think Vidit is going to do the biz very quickly in this game.
Yeah, this seems to be trouble already. I don't see a good defense for black.
Okay, I think we're going to have Danny's game of the day from yesterday featuring Levon Aronian. So Danny's the man of the moment.
He is. He has prepared a couple of special segments for you guys. So enjoy the following masterclass by the number 1 player of the tournament, Levon Aronian, joining Danny Wrench.
And with our first game of the day from the 2018 Isle of Man International, we have many people's pre-tournament pick as the favorite to win it all. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Extremely surprised.
A lot of people taking you, but I have a question for you. The first round of these types of open events, where it's got to be a little bit uncomfortable, or maybe for the top players who are very used to knowing their pairings and sort of closed elite events. Do you get the first round nerves that every chess player can relate to because you don't know who you're going to play, or is it not something that a guy like you gets nervous anymore?
I knew my pairing.
You knew your pairing, but not till a couple hours before the round.
Well, I went around 11 after breakfast.
Yeah. So did you prepare then for your opponent?
Absolutely.
Okay. So it's not something that, the open format of it being a little more options of who you might play, not something that throws off preparation at all.
Well, I mean, I didn't really prepare deeply, but I knew what my opponent plays with white.
Okay.
And I knew his games with black, more or less. I knew his style.
Right.
So it's not that you're preparing some certain novelty or an opening, but you need to be comfortable. You need to know your opponent's style. That's normally important.
Right. So focusing on kind of the profile of who you're playing, because it's not somebody you've played a million times, where you're more focused on the hardcore novelty. Here you're more focused on trying to get a profile of the type of player you're about to face.
Yeah, normally you determine it by seeing your opponent's openings. I mean, my opponent was playing the Sicilian and Grunfeld. Mm-hmm. Normally that tells about him that he's a tactical player.
Right.
So therefore I thought that I need to calculate a lot and make sure I don't get lured into unwanted territories.
And you were ready for that. You said Sicilian or Grunfeld, and that's what we had, right? So he went with the Chaimanov. Okay. Is this something you expected, or?
I also looked at some E4, E5, because he had some games.
Got it.
But I kind of analyzed this a little bit. So bishop, this is how black normally plays. D6.
Yeah.
Some people also play H5.
Okay.
This is very interesting, but I like to be white.
You like to be white in both lines, H5 and D6.
D6 is very solid. It's the best move, I think.
Okay.
So castle, bishop D7.
Yep.
So basically, black is he's not developing his pieces early on, not to get into some unwanted knight D5. Mm-hmm. So he keeps the guys there. And his next move would be bishop e7, because see queen h4 meets with h5. Takes bishop f6.
Queen is trapped. Very nice. Okay.
I mean, not immediately. Whenever I take.
Right.
So, and here I played this. I think I looked at this. Maybe not here, but I thought it's interesting.
Did you get a feeling that maybe surprised him a little bit? Not the most common move.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't remember exactly how black should play in this position. So, I was thinking maybe rook c8.
Yeah.
But anyway, maybe I would do the same.
Same idea.
It's hard to tell. It has to be analyzed.
And so you're not worried about this pawn falling in lines with knight takes
It's very principled. This, generally this whole position.
Right.
So black is a pawn up, but at some moment his pieces are a bit wobbly. So knight f6, queen d2, then rook to c1. Am I in time to create some play? For example, I was thinking about it. For example, queen c8, rook a1, queen b, or queen d8, whatever you do, and then some knights b3. What I'm basically trying to do, maybe take, rook c1, bishop b6.
Long-term pressure compensation.
Kind of, or knight a5, e5.
Okay.
Or knight a5, knight c4, I don't know. It's type of a position that you have to analyze to understand, because so he played knight f6,
right,
c4, and here as well he should take the pawn, because if he allows me to plant this guy here,
right,
then I own the center.
And what happened in the game? You established a comfortable Maroczy bind.
And he cannot really compromise this pawn by playing, for example, bishop e7, somewhere playing b5, because I always have the c5 tricks, and also most of the time this b5 is in my favor.
Right.
Because there are ideas where I can plant the bishop on b4, you know, or even if you manage to get everything right, this pawn is hanging in many lines.
Yeah.
b5 is only good for black when he's fully prepared for it.
Right, traditional accelerated dragon Maroczy bind, whereas here b5 you might even just have the 2-on-1 endgame advantage in a lot of those positions. Okay.
Yeah. So
he didn't take it. You think that was partly the Levon-Aronian factor? Playing, maybe
perhaps,
he was just nervous.
Perhaps.
Okay.
Well, the g6 is definitely a concession.
Right.
It doesn't.
Well, especially in a principled line where if the pawn is on e6, by definition, the bishop is going to be needed to guard the pawn, right? This isn't a traditional dragon. So this was sort of a...
But it's not that this is so much better than g6, because it's still kind of unpleasant.
Yeah, he's still going to have to do, whether it's knight e8 or rook d8, to deal with what he had in the game.
You won't be able to play b5 early on, and whenever I want, I can stop you.
Okay, got it. So he played g6, and now
b3.
Here comes the creeping bishop to d6.
b3. Rook d8 has to be played. Queen d2. He castled. And I played rook d1. I'm not sure my play is super precise, but I felt the position is so pleasant for white. It doesn't require precision. So he took and played bishop to c8.
c8.
No, he played rook.
Yeah, he played rook e8 first. Okay.
Yeah. Then I played rook c1. Yeah, because when it comes to those guys, hedgehog type of positions, as long as you protect from d5, you have the control. For example, this looks very good, but then d5 comes, and you never know. You know, he gets activated.
Right.
So
the main thing is if we trade everything here, black is coming out.
Or knight e4.
Or knight e4. Okay.
He
gets, looking at bishop g4.
Yeah, he gets activity.
Okay.
So it's always very important to watch this d5. So rook c1 cannot be a bad move.
Okay.
So you went here. I couldn't really decide what should I do. Maybe this also looked good. Knight e2 and something like this.
Okay. Just straightforward, ganging up.
But then I wasn't so sure if everything works, because queen a5 and then maybe d5 will come.
Right. And you don't want to play b4. That's a concession, both because it blocks the bishop and the pawn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, maybe b4 is good, but I mean, it already complicates the matters.
Okay.
I mean, it already gives him a feel that he has achieved something.
Right. The inducing of the,
Which you want to avoid. You generally want your opponent to be completely depressed, not have any active moves. And yeah, see, for example, here, this might be good for white, but at the same time, he feels that he has achieved something.
And you're not interested in trades anyway, right? Especially if he's eliminating.
I'll probably win some pawns somewhere, but just psychologically,
right?
I'm not really containing his play.
Got it.
Therefore, I thought knight c2, bishop f8, and bishop b2.
Yep.
So probably the best move for black is to play e5 somewhere.
Just commit.
Yeah.
Allow the weakness and just...
Yeah, it's just slightly worse.
Right.
But at the same time, it's psychologically unpleasant.
Right.
To do that.
A difficult move to play without really feeling like you have to.
Yeah. So he went here. I could also do this, but then I thought, you know, knight g4, takes, queen c3, maybe some e5. I mean, white is clearly better, but I think I'm giving away
too much.
Yeah, I'm giving away some of my advantage. So I thought knight e3 is a good move. b6, and then